Welcome to the Plant-Based Podcast. Did you know that plants are truly amazing? Not only can you grow them and eat them, you can also wear them, drink them, nourish your skin with them, and so much more. Let Ellen and Michael inspire you to love plants as much as they do, as they chat with the movers and shakers in this wonderful plant-based world. So, let's dig in.
This episode of the Plant-Based Podcast is brought to you by our friends at Cobra. The Cobra range of garden machinery is constantly expanding and offers the UK's largest range of lawnmowers. With a comprehensive lineup of quality and innovative petrol, electric, battery and cordless products to tackle any gardening task, Cobra is the newest evolution in garden machinery. Visit cobragarden.co.uk for your chance to win a variety of great Cobra products.
Our guest on today's podcast episode is challenging traditional building materials with something sustainable and healthy that just might surprise you. And with us all spending so much time in our homes, it's really important to think about what toxins we are actually breathing in. So today's guest is Matty, founder and CEO based over in Sun Valley, Idaho, from Hempitecture. So really excited that you're on the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. And I cannot wait to hear more about this.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with you guys today.
Oh, no worries. So tell us all about Hempitecture. Where did it all begin?
Well, it's kind of a long story, so I'll give you the abridged one. But it starts back when I was an undergraduate student studying architecture. And I went to this beautiful, small little school in the Northeast of the United States. And over my 4 years in college, I saw a mountain grow in the distance. Now, how might you see a mountain grow? Well, this was not a natural mountain. This was a landfill. It was actually one of the largest super landfills in the Northeast. And they're taking in garbage from basically all over the Northeast and depositing it in this landfill. And so as this mountain was growing in the distance, I became really curious as to what was going into this landfill. And I found out that about 40% of the contents of this landfill were construction and demolition waste. The buildings that we occupy after the life is over, they go to the landfill and they take up space. And so I became really fascinated with, how our built environment impacts our natural environment, watching this unnatural mountain grow in the distance. So my senior year, I ended up, really kind of continuing with this idea and did a thesis research project that I called The Contemporary Relevance of Earth Architecture. So I studied different natural, biodegradable, plant-based, if you will, building types from across the world, straw bale, cob, rammed earth. And I wondered, what did people do before we invented these petrochemically derived building materials that are made with, oil and synthetics and all these chemicals? How did we live? How did we have shelter? So I became really fascinated with this concept, and my research brought me really all the way around the world, but really in France, Belgium, the Netherlands, and even the UK was where I became super fascinated with building with hemp lime, which is a biocomposite building material. So really that process of studying these different building materials was the foundation for Hempitecture today.
That's remarkable, from just, basically looking out of a window and seeing a mountain, and that's got, you thinking about how and why and that thought process. And obviously that links in with what you were trained in as well, like with architecture and building and stuff. But years ago, I used to work for an architectural practice. So before I came into horticulture, I worked in HR and I worked at an architectural practice. And it was at the point where we were just starting to look at using more sustainable methods of building. And yet I could see even then that, gosh, we have got a long way to go. And then learn how concrete is actually one of the biggest producers of CO2 across the globe. And so this kind of product is desperately needed So I'm genuinely incredibly excited to hear about it. Do you know what I mean? We're mixing like the modern built world with the plant-based world,
Definitely,
for the good of everyone.
That's spot on. And I'm sure in your architectural practice, you felt that resistance early on, or that maybe unwillingness to experiment with new things and go outside of the box. And I think that's a challenge here in the United States and beyond, across the world. And doing new things is challenging. It takes risk, and it takes being a bit adventurous to go off the beaten path and try something new, try something plant-based, because that's not what comes to everyone's mind at first.
No, that's right. And it challenges opinions and beliefs. And of course, there's a lot to do with profits and how quick we can build a project, how we don't want to spend loads of money on it. How cheap can we do it? All of those kind of things. So it's a huge challenge for the industry in general. But based upon, what's happening in the world with climate change, these are the kind of things that we have to step out of the box, and we have to be serious about it, and we have to take those risks and give it a go, because what we're doing right now isn't working, is it? That's my little rant.
It's all good. So you've got a couple of materials you're working with. You've got Hempwool and you've got Hempcrete. Can you tell us all about those? But first of all, just explain to us what hemp actually is, because I think there's a few different kind of preconceptions about it. So can you just tell us what it is right from the plant stage, please?
Surely. So industrial hemp is actually defined as cannabis sativa with 0.3% THC content or less. It's a little bit of an arbitrary denotation between cannabis of a medicinal variety and industrial hemp. But the main difference is that industrial hemp contributes the energy, the photosynthetic energy, to growing big stalks, racing for the sky, whereas cannabis of a medicinal or recreational variety, its photosynthetic energy goes to producing flowers. Those flowers are what contain the THC. So really, we've kind of created this designation for industrial hemp. But industrial hemp has been grown really since the beginning of time. There's evidence of the use of industrial hemp in UNESCO World Heritage sites in India and in the Middle East, like where the cradle of life is considered to be. So industrial hemp in the United States, at least, has had a very mired history, and we're actually just detangling that history. A lot of other countries are way far ahead of the United States, and they don't really have this stigma surrounding industrial hemp. Well, is it marijuana or pot? That in the United States is something that today we'll tell people we're working with hemp-based building materials, and they'll say, well, isn't that Schedule 1? Isn't that a recreational substance? It really is part of the same family, but it is a different genetic makeup, and it has a different purpose. Ultimately, grain, as in the seeds, fiber from the stalk, and the wooden core from the stalk itself are the main end products that can be turned into more products from industrial hemp.
So, we just need to make sure that all of our listeners realize that if you are going to be living or working in a building that's been made from hemp materials in any way, you're not going to be sitting there getting high.
No. It's such a weird misconception, isn't it?
So much.
Yeah. I cannot tell you how many times I've been asked, so if I have a hempcrete house and my house burns down, is the whole neighborhood going to have a block party? And that's simply not the case. And also, hempcrete's fireproof, so that's not going to happen.
That's interesting.
So how are those two materials made then? Just take us through that for the Hempwool and the Hempcrete, please.
Yeah, I'll start with Hempcrete because it's been around for longer, and that's really where Hempitecture started, was with a focus on Hempcrete. So we call Hempcrete a insulating biocomposite. A biocomposite is two or more natural things combined together to create ultimately one. So in the solidification process of Hempcrete, you have this process of limestone joining with the wooden core, which imagine hemp core looking like wood chips. That's really what it looks like. You mix it with water in a very specialized blend and ratio, and it sets up and solidifies by absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. So that's pretty incredible. It actively stores carbon dioxide while it's curing. And it can do that for quite some time, a few years during the full solidification process.
That's amazing.
It is amazing. And that was really why I became enamored with it. In addition to the fact that at the end of its life, you could break it up, till it into the soil, and ultimately it will biodegrade. So really a cradle to cradle building material, which that's a pretty coveted accolade. Not a lot of building materials can say that they can go cradle to cradle from earth back to the earth. So
can I say how much I love plants? Sorry, minor interlude. I genuinely like. We often walk around and we just think of plants in our house, our house plants or the plants, those lovely tulips you've got growing out the front. But plants give so much, don't they? The things that we just need to learn and accept and educate. And there's just this blows my mind.
I know. It's amazing.
It's so exciting. And what really excites me is that idea of, I think people think of plants as this external thing or a decoration or something that goes around their home. Yeah. But really it's transcending from exterior to now to your walls, to even in your kitchen. I mean, people are eating plant-based substitutes, and there's so many plant-based alternatives now. And we're trying to be really part of that plant-based world. So again, it's so exciting to be here with you guys today. We're thrilled. So Hempcrete is really, we view one of the most sustainable building methods on the planet. I'm hard pressed to think of many other carbon capturing, fireproof, sustainable building materials. And really the focus on Hempcrete was where Hempitecture began. So when I was looking at these projects in the UK and Scotland and France and the Netherlands and Belgium, they were all hemp line projects. And I thought, wow, what an incredible opportunity here for the United States. And at the time of this research project, I think there were only 2, maybe 3 Hempcrete building projects in the United States. So it's brand new where I'm located. And I thought to myself, wow, we need to bring this here. In working with Hempcrete and hemp lime for the last 7 years or so, I've learned a lot about Hempcrete. And I've learned that there's some challenges to implementing it. While we do believe it's one of the most sustainable ways of building a home, and maybe one of the most pure and artisanal ways of building a home, it's not for everybody. And our goal as a public benefit corporation is to get plant-based materials, healthy, non-toxic materials, in as many homes as possible. And that's where Hempwool comes in. Hempwool is a 1-to-1 substitute for conventional insulation products like fiberglass, spray foam, rock wool, you name it. Anything that would go in a stud framed wall, Hempwool can take the place of that nasty, toxic, underperforming material. So like I said, Hempcrete is this sort of more encompassing strategy, a bit more niche, pure, artisanal. Hempwool has mass appeal. It can go in almost every home across the world.
How very cool. I want some already. But anyway, not that I'm doing any form of building work, but just I'd love to kind of know a comparison. So, I mentioned concrete, but how do traditional building methods affect the environment? And then in comparison, say on a small project, if you were to use Hempcrete and hemp wool, what would that comparison be in regards to the environmental output?
That's a really great question. And I'll break that down a couple ways. When we look at the carbon footprint or the embodied carbon of some of the most commonly used building materials out there, there's 2 really, bad ones. Concrete, as you had mentioned before, is one of the world's largest carbon intensive and carbon emitting industries. So concrete's a huge problem. And I think there's a lot of solutions coming in line for concrete. But the other really carbon intensive building material is insulation. Spray foam has this embodied energy that is massive. Those blue board sheets or those pink, kind of spongy foam sheets, those pieces of insulation emit so much carbon dioxide that in the life of your building, you will never actually save the carbon dioxide emitted in the manufacture of those products themselves. And we've come to this point where we really need to think about embodied energy, embodied carbon, because operational efficiency, meaning the energy that you save in the life of your building, it has to consider the holistic viewpoint, from where the materials are born to how your home is built and operated, and we need to be working towards more carbon neutral, carbon negative, carbon storing building materials. So we like to really, compare that spray foam, that those foam sheets to Hempwool and say, hey, look, this is something that has a huge carbon footprint, and this can be mitigated by the use of Hempwool. I hate to say it, sometimes in homes, synthetic materials have to be spec'd. Maybe it's a, ground contact or there's some sort of detailing. Well, you can start now with the availability of plant-based and bio-based building materials. You can start to save carbon in one area, say by using Hempwool or Hempcrete, to make up for the areas that you have to use the other materials. And so really, I think where we're heading is this balancing act. We need to be cognizant of the carbon footprint as a whole. Back to the concrete concept, the concrete industry is, as we talked about before, hugely polluting, hugely carbon emitting. And unfortunately, concrete is not going to be going anywhere. Concrete really has a specific use. And generally that's, for ground contact, structural load bearing. Hempcrete really does not take the place of concrete, through and through. In some instances, it can. For instance, above ground concrete walls, you could use Hempcrete. But below ground, Hempcrete is not ideally suited. And so we're going to see really exciting things that are already happening now, where startups are injecting carbon dioxide harvested from the atmosphere into concrete to lower its carbon footprint. And I really think we're just on the precipice of all this really exciting stuff.
That's really interesting. And you mentioned balance. And I always we often say that when we chat with people on the podcast, humans are so bad at balance. It's like everything in our lives is all of one, or, we can't ever just get this balance. So you could use concrete, but you could use Hempcrete as well. Do you know what I mean? And then you're just gaining that little bit of balance, which is something that we need. We can use modern materials and traditional materials together, but it's like everything is concrete, everything is bad. Why can't we just balance this out a little bit, and use plants?
Definitely. So would you say the construction industry is now looking for plant-based materials actively? And also at the same time, are they cost effective enough for them to move to those? Are there some examples where you've had some, commercial projects with Hempitecture so far?
Yeah, that's a really great question. I think that the construction industry now is just starting to really understand their place in, the whole. They're trying to understand how their industry impacts the environment. And I think that's a really new idea. I think 10 years ago, it was all about the bottom line, and just building projects and pushing them out for as quickly and as cheaply as possible. But I think architects as well are understanding their importance in the role of specifying, basically telling builders, hey, this is the material composition for this project. And really, once it becomes on the architectural plans and then it's passed off to the builder doesn't have a lot of say in what materials are substituted or, what materials are used, because it is etched in stone on that architectural plan. So when we're doing outreach and we're thinking about how do we grow the market share for plant-based building materials, architects really are kind of at the top of this hierarchy of people that it's really important for us to connect with and talk to. Because if they specify it once and their builder that they've trusted for the last 10, 15, 20 years likes that product, they're going to specify it again and again and again. And I think it cascades from there. Now, to your question of cost, without a doubt, these materials are being sold at a premium. And really, it's because they're made on a smaller scale. And it's hard to compete with the multinational conglomerate corporations that are using petrochemical-based material for their products. So at this point, with our small scale, there's a challenge there. But I think as this industry scales up, and when I say this industry, I mean the industry of plant-based materials as a whole, as it scales up, as more production facilities come online, that is when we're going to start to see the price come down. And we're going to start to see it in more and more homes. And there's going to be less pushback from the architect, from the client, from the builder, because everybody across the sort of value spectrum, if you will, is going to view this as a win-win. They can touch this material without getting itchy. They can breathe it in without worrying about, severe damage to their lungs. The homeowners that are moving in or occupying the space in the future, they don't have to worry about volatile organic compounds off-gassing from their insulation or wall materials. So yeah, we're moving in that direction. I think it's going to get there, but scale is really going to be key for mass adoption.
Do you know what? I remember that horrible roof insulation, loft insulation that was really itchy. Do you remember that? We had some of that in my parents' house, and I can always remember it being horrible stuff. Then when wear your gloves, don't get it on your skin.
Yeah.
Well, surely if something's like that, then you would know that that's not particularly good stuff,
Doesn't it seem almost just anti-logical or illogical to, put a material in your house and surround yourself with a material that you couldn't even touch with your hands? Yeah, we do it all the time.
Yeah, I find like when you were talking about the cost just then, it's kind of weird how when you go back to, I know what you're doing isn't basic, but when you go back to basics, and that's using plants. So before, chemicals and like these big industrial things. Yeah, the way that is natural and the right way is the most expensive way. Like something's gone seriously wrong, to get to that point. That's not how it should be.
Absolutely. And that really ties back to that thesis study I did my senior year, where I was looking like pre-industrial revolution, and you're looking at what indigenous people built with across the world. And it's all plant-based earthen materials. And we've certainly lost our way from that.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. Well, thank you so much. So that's part 1 of the episode. And in part 2, we will be looking at a little bit more hempitecture, obviously. Yeah. And looking at, if it's a particularly good alternative to wool as well for vegans such as me. So sometimes I ask questions purely for my own benefit rather than anyone else's. We'll be back in part 2 shortly.
Well, good morning, lovely listeners.
Or good afternoon.
How are you? We hope your summer has started well.
It's Joey and Katie here, your regular veg-centric recipe girls. Thank you, as ever, for having us in your ears.
So, this one's a biggie. It's no exception to say that this is the best vegan recipe on our site so far. You might even say it's the tastiest thing we've ever cooked, full stop.
I back that. It's outrageous. Dun 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 dun. It's Dan Dan noodles.
Stunning. This recipe is entirely plant-based, as we've used a sunflower seed mince. You can find a link to the brand on our website, but any corn mince or similar would be perfect.
The sauce is flavour dynamite. It's explosive with ginger, red chilli, Szechuan pepper, a little Chinese spice, and lots of umami-rich tamari or soy sauce. It's rich, zingy, salty, and remarkably meaty. Air quotes.
Air quotes.
Always air quotes.
You can use any noodle you wish. At the time of cooking, we didn't actually have any noodles in, so in fact, blanched whole lasagna sheets and then slice these into ribbons. A little life hack there for you.
And veg-wise, this dish contains broccoli, spring greens, spring onions, and lots of fresh lime juice.
It's simultaneously light and bright with healthy green vibes, and deeply Moorish, comforting and satisfying too. You could say it's perfect for this non-summer we're currently enjoying in woolly jumpers.
You could. But in all seriousness, please give this one a go. You won't regret it. For more veg-centric seasonal recipe inspiration, have a peek on www.joeyandkatiecook.co.uk. That's Katie with a Y. And follow us on Instagram at Joey and Katie Cook.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for having us, and happy cooking.
See you next time.
Bye.
So we're back here with Matty from Hempitecture, and we want to delve even more into this new hemp material, which is hopefully going to change the world. And we want to ask, how does hemp make a better construction material? Because, of course, if we're going to move to this on a wide-scale basis, then it needs to have a real benefit, doesn't it, Matty?
Absolutely. That's a really great question. I'm going to break that down into 2 parts. And first, I'll start with hemp wool, hemp insulation. Hemp wool is so easy to use that it can be basically just be put in between a stud bay cavity on any sort of standard construction project across the world. And what we found is that Hempwool is good for everybody in contact with, whether it's the installer themselves, whether it's the general contractor who's on the project for 6 months to a year and often is exposed to these toxic materials, to the end user who gets to move into this home and enjoy the benefits of a healthy, sustainable insulation product. Because it's so easy to use, I think that Hempwool is going to have a really lower barrier to entry than some of the other materials like fiberglass or other products. Now, in terms of the benefits and values of Hempwool, it's super insulating, which is great because that helps you save money on your utility bills.
Yeah.
It absorbs sound, which makes for a more comfortable indoor air environment. It has no VOCs or toxins, so you don't have to worry about contamination of your indoor air quality, and it's vapor permeable. Without getting too into the weeds of building science, vapor permeability is a big deal when it comes to certain building materials, in particular insulation. And the reason that vapor permeability is such a big deal is because materials that are not vapor permeable, they hold on to water and they create mold. When you have mold, you have negative impacts on human health. It's well documented. And so for wet, moist climates, having a material that can hold moisture, release it, that's huge because that creates a healthier indoor air environment.
It sounds like the perfect product.
Yeah.
I think in the UK, because it's an island, it's always so damp. Like in the winter, there's so many problems with mold and how it affects people's health at home over the winter.
One of the really interesting things that we often share about, what we view as the main competitor product, which is fiberglass, is as soon as fiberglass is exposed to humidity and moisture and it starts to hold on to that moisture, its insulation value is halved. It's cut in half. Whereas Hempwool can essentially absorb 50% of its weight in water and be reduced by its insulation value 1 to 2%. So in a humid climate where you're using fiberglass, all of a sudden that fiberglass is no longer doing its job, whereas Hempwool will continue to do its job. And really that's in thanks to the plant fiber structure of Hempwool. The natural fibers themselves, which part of their job in the life of the plant when it's actually planted in the ground with roots is to transport moisture from where it's collected down to the root system. So it continues to do that in some sense or shape or form in its life as an insulation material.
That's really incredible. I was just thinking while you were saying all of this, that the building materials that we have used over many, many years, maybe we didn't realize at the beginning when they were being manufactured, how very bad they are for our health and stuff, like asbestos, for example. I mean, that's just horrendous. And obviously now getting asbestos removed from anything is an absolute, a real trial. Because I was trying to be nice about it. But and maybe we didn't know that this would cause all of the issues that it has, so to come along with something, that's made of plants that is environmentally friendly must make you personally so proud of what you're achieving,
Thank you. Yeah, it really, I feel inspired to go to work every day. And I'm not sure that a lot of folks can say that. And I mentioned before, we're a public benefit corporation, which essentially in the United States just means we have a mission that states our goal is more than just profit. It's to benefit people and planet. And we really feel that we can benefit both people and planet with healthy, sustainable, plant-based materials. I mean, think about the life cycle and the where the product comes from. It is farmed by farmers in rural areas who are planting this on large acreage. This is so different than coming from a factory. Of course, it's made in a factory, but the raw materials are not synthetic or chemically manufactured. It is coming from rural farms across Canada, the United States, and we're taking this material and turning it into a product that then has a super long-lasting life, 50 to 100 years for these insulation projects. So I feel very, very fortunate to have found this and really to have found my calling, if you will, when I was in university, just studying as an undergraduate student. You're trying to understand, how can I help do my part? How can I help build a better world with better materials?
Literally build a better world at that as well. And I'm just going to drop in there that you did say that your thesis was studied around about the building at the UEA, the sustainable building, which the name I now can't remember, but which is near where I live. So it is a very small world indeed, isn't it?
It sure is. And that building, just for some context, is a hempcrete building. And it was one of the first large-scale hempcrete buildings on a real institutional sense. There have been a number of hempcrete houses across the world. And to be honest, France, the Netherlands, the UK, they've been building with hempcrete for quite some time. In the United States, this was so new and novel that it just blew people's minds. And it still continues to do that because it is incredible. But that building at the University of East Anglia is an example of how a bio-based natural building material can exist at scale and on a huge institutional level. So it's a really cool project.
That's super cool. Like, how can we get Hempitecture materials in the UK then from you? Are they available in the UK?
Yeah, that's a great question. And right now we're really focused on North America. We service both Canada, the United States. We've even had a few clients in Mexico. Hempcrete is a prolific building strategy, and we view it as open source. In terms of coding, anyone can take this code and use it and implement it. And there are some really remarkable builders across the UK for hempcrete who specialize in these building materials. In terms of hemp wool, it's also emerging in Europe and the EU. There's facilities in France, there's facilities in Belgium, and I believe there might even be a facility coming online in the UK as well. So hemp-based and plant-based building materials are here. They're growing. They're not going anywhere. I think we're going to see more and more of a market for these products. And no matter what country you're in, you can source and find these materials.
Mm-hmm. That's really interesting.
All I can say is, we're discovering more about plants all of the time,
Definitely. What about Ellen's wool question? Can we use hemp wool as an alternative to traditional wool?
Absolutely. And I love that question because hemp wool is vegan friendly. It is no animal, wool at all. We actually call it hemp wool to really kind of imitate the name of a big product competitor of ours, which is rock wool. Rock wool is a basalt-based insulation product, basalt as in the mineral slag. So it has a huge, massive embodied carbon. And so we named hemp wool to really kind of conjure this idea of insulation, but there is actually no plant or animal-based wool in it. It is 100% a plant-based product. So it is a perfect substitute for your vegan friends and all the vegans in your life.
So I could literally wear it, right? I could wrap myself around with it.
You could absolutely wear it. We've had people have really funny requests. People are like, can I make a couch out of this? Can I, use this as a blanket? And in fact, I did my own home improvement project. That was a Christmas gift for my significant other in my life. And we built a headboard. And instead of using a foam-based padding to back the headboard to make it nice and soft, we used hemp wool. And so we like to think that we have maybe the most sustainable headboard in the world.
I love that. That's a real claim to fame, that is. The most sustainable headboard. Oh, I have so many ideas. Yeah. I always love it when we speak to people about plants because they're almost always vegan. Almost. So this makes me very, very happy indeed. The more products available that are good for the environment, that are made from plants, that are sustainable and, plant-based for vegans as well, and for everybody to understand, the better. So I find that really fascinating, especially coming from, a background where I did work in an architect's practice. I'm not an architect, by the way. I've done HR, and but
I picked up a few tricks.
Yeah, I'm completely fascinated by the the merge between the modern world and the natural world. And when you visit cities and you see these amazing, incredibly built buildings and then green roofs or, you know, green spaces and how they work together and trees and stuff. And it fascinates me. And like, I can walk around cities and look at that kind of difference and how that works. You know, I could do it all of the time. But, you know, what we need to see, of course, is though we're building, the population is growing, there's more buildings all around the world. We can't carry on as we are. We can't keep building everything out of concrete. We can't keep emitting all of this CO2. It has to stop. So it's great to speak to someone who genuinely is, you know, building a better future for everyone with using plants. So
brilliant. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. You guys are a blast, and I have
even when Mike had to get up early on and go and answer the door. So where can we find you online? Where can listeners find out more about you?
Yeah, so to find out more about Hempitecture, just visit www.hempitecture.com. And that's like hemp architecture, Hempitecture. And you can find more about our Hempcrete building materials, our Hempwool materials, and even our consulting services, where we help homeowners, contractors, clients around the world realize their plant-based dream home.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. Thank you for spending the time coming on the podcast today. I know it's earlier in the morning for you, so you have the whole day ahead of you. So we hope we've set you up on a good route for the day.
Started out on a high note, so thank you so much. And
excellent.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Bye, Matty.
Bye.
Hi there, it's Tom again from Forage and Folklore Tours. I'm actually going to talk to you about two plants today, just because they're actually really similar, and they've been really, really prevalent this year. These plants are sort of daisy-looking flowers, and they grow primarily around farm fields right now is where you'll see them. And I'm talking, of course, about wild chamomile and pineapple weed. Both of them look very similar, but wild chamomile looks much more like a daisy. It has the yellow center with the white petals, and then pineapple weed, though, looks like almost a sort of unfinished chamomile. It's very green and doesn't really have any petals on it. Both are wonderful in teas, and they smell quite nice. And can be used in many different ways. Pineapple weed, for one, if you infuse it in some oil or butter, you can actually use that to make sugar cookies that taste very pineapple-y. And chamomile, of course, is used primarily in teas for its calming effects. However, it is said that chamomile is actually really related to money, and it's said that if you put some chamomile in your wallet next time you go gambling, it'll attract money to you. So give it a try if you are a fan of the races. Now, what's really sort of interesting about the chamomile is that there are a couple different kinds, so you do have to get it right. The wild chamomile I'm talking about is known as either German chamomile or Roman chamomile, and it has a very distinctive sort of apple-y smell to it. It smells really nice. Sort of what you would expect for chamomile tea, whereas it's very close. One that you can confuse it with is called corn chamomile. It's slightly larger, but the real kicker to it is that it doesn't really have much of a smell. And if you were to put that in tea, it just simply doesn't taste very nice. It won't hurt you, but you just won't enjoy it. So when you're out walking your footpaths, and you're passing by a farm field, have a look, see what kind of daisy plants are around, pick off a piece and give it a bit of a smell, and you should be able to figure out if it's chamomile, Roman chamomile, corn chamomile, and then, of course, look out for pineapple weed. So, again, I'm Tom from Forage and Folklore Tours. You can visit us on Instagram or Facebook or our website, forageandfolkloretours.com. Thanks.
Cobra is the very proud partner of Series 4 of the Plant-Based Podcast, joining in the celebration of plants, gardens and outdoor living. With over 60 models of lawnmowers available in the Cobra range, there's something for every garden. As a special offer for our listeners, Cobra is offering the chance to win exclusive prizes. Head over to cobragarden.co.uk to find out more.
Wow. No, I mean, I'm a 6'3" bloke sat here with a wig and about 2 millimeters of makeup on. You can ask me anything. I feel like I can't be there, like, don't ask me that.
Well, that's the line.
How tall are you?
6'2".
Oh, so you're 6'3". I think you're tall. Like, I am a midget compared to you. So compared to you, I would literally probably come up to like your knees.
Oh, bless you.
I'd see right up your skirt.
No, I'm actually like, when I wear my heels though, I'm like almost 7 foot tall.
Oh my God, amazing. Because I've only ever seen the world from my height. Anyone who's taller, I always wonder what they see. Like I think you see the world in a totally different perspective.
I want to be smaller, I go like this, and I'm like, what's going on?
Do you know what though? When I find people that are taller than me, I get really intimidated because I'm there like...
Yeah, I think same for me as well, yeah. You don't often meet someone taller. Yeah.
And without a doubt, wherever I go, if I haven't seen someone in like, I don't know, 6 months, someone's like, and they're like, no, I haven't remembered how tall I was. But that's always the question, like, have you grown?
You grown. You know, like that question when you're a kid and your auntie goes, "Oh, you've grown so much."
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, this is our guest. We're chatting away.
Yeah, I don't know if we've officially started though.
Yeah, we've officially started.
Okay.
But we haven't even.
Hello.
I think I would like you to introduce yourself. So tell us who you are, where you come from, and.
Well, hello, everybody. I am Tom. Right now, I am actually Daisy Desire. I am the drag queen gardener from the West Midlands.
Cool. That's really cool. And this is your alter ego. But who actually does the work on the allotment?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Although Daisy does not actually garden herself, Tom does all the gardening. Uh-huh. Daisy's just my drag queen persona who's happened to get into gardening recently.
Amazing. Can I just say, I don't know if this was recorded when I said it, but you actually look phenomenally. I can't even say the word beautiful.
Yeah.
Sometimes I see beautiful people who have the most perfect makeup on, and I can only wish to ever learn to make my makeup look as absolutely perfect as yours. Seriously.
It's just a lot of practice and a lot of hope and half a bottle of glue.
That's the trick I'm missing.
But does it take a long time? Yeah. Does it take a long time to get into Daisy?
Yes, it does. I mean, if you know me like as Tom, I probably look like some builder or a rugby player or something. Not that I am. No, yeah, it takes me about 2 hours just to get into the makeup alone.
Oh, no way.
But, yeah, it's just kind of there like, oh my God, it's the gluing down the eyebrows. Well, I have to glue down mine and then obviously draw them back on.
Yeah.
This is a process.
Cool.
It is totally worth it because you look absolutely fantastic.
Yeah.
But let's talk about gardening. Let's go back. Like, where did gardening all start for you? When did you start? Tell us about your love of plants and gardening.
Gardening. Wow. If I'm completely honest.
I don't know why that was funny. Gardening. Wow. Let me tell you about that.
This is what happens when you put yourself in drag. You just change. Like I can just see myself.
When you're a builder, Tom, are you really dull?
How dare you? No. No. About 3 years ago, it was kind of weird. Like, I'd always kind of wanted to get into garden, and I was always like on the train back from work, and we'd always pass these allotment sites. And I'd always be like, I really want to give this a go. And then I was in a long-term relationship, and long story short, I got dumped. And the next day I went and got an allotment. And then I literally I'd never put on a pair of gardening gloves. I had no utter idea where to even start. I took on a plot. it was quite funny, really, because the guy that was showing me around, the kind of secretary of the allotment, was there, like, he was trying to show me these small little plots that didn't really need much.
Oh, sorry, our vegan burgers arrived.
Carry on.
I was there like, no, I need a challenge. I want something. And then, like, he showed me this plot that I hadn't been touched in about 10 years. It was covered in brambles, bindweed everywhere. I didn't even know what bindweed was at the time. And for some silly reason, I was there like, I want this one. I want a challenge, and I'm going to throw myself into gardening. And I remember I literally was there like, I need to go buy some gardening gloves. I've never done this before. And it was kind of really funny. It was very much like a Julia Roberts movie. Like, I was digging away, getting really angry, like, oh, you... And then obviously sometimes I'd be like pulling out weeds, like, oh, I just can't do this anymore.
I missed a bit. I had to get our vegan takeaway. What did you say? You buried your ex on the allotment? Is that what you said? Or have I missed part of the story?
No, but like from that, suddenly came this love of gardening. And I honestly just completely fell in love with it. I became like buying books about it. And I was like, I became like the weekly, Gardener's World is on, like, as you do. And I don't know, from there came this huge love for gardening. And that's when I kind of started up the Instagram, going up the Lottie, which obviously is now a gardener. And then basically, I had been made redundant last year from my job. And I was working as like a merchandiser for like John Lewis. And then I was like, oh my God, I don't have a job. What am I going to do? And then all of a sudden, 2 weeks later, an opportunity came along saying, well, you can come garden for me. My gardener's just retired. And I was like,
Really?
I'll do that.
Oh, how cool.
I literally garden. And then obviously, I'm now a drag queen gardener. And it's gardening has changed my life.
Oh, isn't it amazing, though, actually, how the breakup...
It was soothing, yeah.
You gardened, you were like, right, I need to do this. I've wanted to do it. I'm going to make this change or this new hobby or whatever. But that has literally taken your life in this other direction that you could possibly, that you maybe didn't imagine before.
Absolutely. I never even thought that like my life would ever, I would love to love gardening so much. It was just something that I thought, I really want to try it. Let's just give it a go. My life has fallen apart. I need to do something. And then it literally has just gone boom. And I don't think I can ever go through life now without at least like a small plot of land just to grow on, whether that's like a small back garden or an allotment.
That's really cool.
Once you start, you can't stop.
Oh, definitely. And when did the drag queen gardener start then? What came first, the gardening or the drag?
The gardening. So the gardening started about 3 years ago. And then sort of just in the last year, I like in the lockdown and stuff, I was watching RuPaul's Drag Race. I was binge watching. I'd never watched it before. And I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Oh, wow.
And then when the restrictions kind of lessened and you could go into like a club to watch a drag show, I was like, oh, I want to go watch. And everyone was cheering on. And it must have looked like I was not excited to be there. I just sat there like, this is amazing. I can do this. I can definitely do this. Because I come from a performing background and I'm at the moment, I'm studying at university in drama. But I don't think that's going to go well anymore. I think we're going to stick to gardening. But basically, I was there like, oh, I really want to try being a drag queen. I really want to get into it. So sort of over a few months, I was there like, okay, I don't want to just slap on a wig and call myself a drag queen. You know, there's a process. I want to learn more about makeup, learn more about, you know, shaping your body and stuff. Mm-hmm. So basically, I was sort of learning that. And then I posted on my gardening Instagram a picture of me sort of half in drag. And I just thought, oh, that's a bit funny. Because obviously we're in the middle of lockdown. Everyone's, you know, not going for a bit of a crappy time. Let's just have a bit of a laugh. So I was there like, oh, when two worlds collide, you know, a drag queen holding a gardening book. Yeah. And then people there was a load of people that were loving it. They were finding it funny. And I kind of really liked that. But there were quite a few other people that would message me, kind of giving me a bit of hate for it. Even gardeners were saying, well, that's nothing to do with gardening. And I was there like, do you know what? Yeah. Most people would probably stop by now. But at that point, I was there like, that kind of lit a fire under me in a nice way, and was there like, oh, wait, if people don't like this, this could be a good idea. So the next thing you know, 2 weeks later, and bear in mind, I'd only really just started doing drag a couple of months before, so I was figuring this all out as I was going along. I was there like, no, I'm going to get them all back. I'm going to like make this so funny. So I got up in full drag, like got some dungarees, cut them into like some bodysuit and everything.
I think I've seen
the garden centre.
Yeah, you know this one.
Holded like 2 pot plants and posed for the gods, and I was like going for it. And the next thing I know, I posted that online to almost be there like, oh, if you're going to hate me, I'm going to really give you something to hate now. But also to make people laugh and kind of have a bit of fun. Because, you know, yes, I suppose in the big scheme of things, you could say like gardening, you know, could change the world in terms of the environment. But when it, like, to one person, gardening isn't really that serious. Do you know what I mean? I mean, we all love it and we all appreciate it, we all respect it, we all grow and learn. But when it comes down to it, drag and gardening are not really that serious in terms of, do you know what I mean? It's not going to save someone's life. I mean, it could in terms of kind of like the mental health reasons, but you know what I mean? And I just thought these two things are night and day, but for some reason, they seem to be going together really well. And people seem to be laughing about this. And I just kind of thought, well, in this time of COVID, let's just have something to laugh about. I mean, everyone's already posting pictures of their carrots. Why don't I just post a picture of me in full drag with holding a shovel?
Have you ever actually gone as Daisy in the allotment and done some work? Some digging? Or is it only for photos?
I don't think Daisy wants to get her nails dirty.
Daisy does not get her hands dirty. Daisy,
well, hot plant, house plants, maybe that.
Well, yeah. It's funny because now I do kind of like, I just sit down in my drag sometimes watching TV because I think, well, I've spent so much time trying to get into this. No, but I have been to the allotment a couple of times. Not to actually garden in drag, because I've had like an opportunity where I've had to take a photo in drag, or I did a campaign recently as a drag queen. And it is quite funny. Like everyone's kind of loving it, but obviously your typical kind of allotment owner is someone, you know, of a certain age, and he's always there like, oh, hello, Mom. And I'm usually there in my shed with a cup of tea, like, oh, you're right, mate. And then all of a sudden he looks and just sees this gigantic 7-foot tall drag shovel. It's very much kind of there like, I'm going to look at the floor, but I'm still smiling at this because this is hilarious.
I love that you brought some fun, you know, to
nice
gardening.
To challenge people
and
as well.
And it is good to challenge people's perceptions. And for anyone who sent you any form of hate for what you're doing, then they need to get a grip of themselves, actually.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've lived through this plague part too. I haven't got time for self-hate. Has anyone? None of us have got the lifespan for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you just came back out fighting, and look at, I mean, that is just one way to do it.
And you created such a splash. I think like you're the next big kind of gardening Insta star, I think.
oh, thank you.
Because you just done the little promo with Draper, and are you off to Hampton Court? You're there on press day.
Yeah? Yes. I'm really
you're
fortunate.
There on press day, no?
Yeah.
Ellen is. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I couldn't say hello. No, like I was like RHS invited me to their press day at Hampton Court, and I was there like, what? Like, and I honestly almost fell on the floor. I think all my neighbours thought something had happened because I literally screamed. Because I was thinking like, oh, do I go as Tom or do I go as Daisy? And I was like, hang on a minute, no.
But they want you for that, really, if they've invited you from your Instagram profile. Yeah.
I would never want to think that I'm trying to make fun of gardening or offend anyone. Obviously, like I'm a drag queen, so it's, you know, I'm more embracing than anything. But it's more kind of there like, let's have a bit of fun in gardening. I mean, gardening, especially over lockdown, and drag also, has gone so mainstream in like the last sort of 6 months to a year. Let's have a bit of a laugh with it. Because I kind of do think there is a bit of a stigma in terms of gardening. I think when you're kind of new to it, can be a bit intimidating, especially you know, when like everyone's kind of like talking about, I don't know, like the Latin names for plants. Like even I was a bit like, oh, I don't know what that is. And that's not to kind of knock that, but also I'm thinking, can we make gardening a bit more fun and a bit more
totally.
you know, a bit more, less intimidating. And gardening isn't that difficult. And I kind of think, let's just kind of jazz it up a bit, you know, throw a few rhinestones on your shovel.
I love that.
Oh my God, that is the next shoot you have to do. Oh my God, yeah.
That's really good fun.
Let's just have a laugh with it, really.
Yeah, I love that attitude. It's something we need to do. You know, there's a time and place for seriousness in gardening, like you said, saving the world and all of that completely. But on a day-to-day basis, we just really need to be enjoying it, you know, and having a laugh. And like, you know, at the end of, well, where are we now? Like 18 months later, I guess, throughout this pandemic. Mm-hmm. Yeah, people, like you said, people have just had the toughest time. Like, let's just enjoy each other and celebrate each other in any which way that we want to garden, you know.
Exactly. Let's just have fun with it, I think. And kind of, I think if we can make it appeal more fun, we might be able to entice a kind of a more younger kind of audience as well. Because I kind of think it's amazing having all this knowledge from like sort of the OGs in gardening. But like, we also need to encourage the younger generation more as well. And I think the lockdown has helped. But now that we're coming out of it, how can we still kind of keep on to the ones that have just got into gardening? But also
definitely. I think you need to merge it the other way around. Maybe take some plants to drag shows. That would be cool. Can you imagine? What are your, we talked a little bit about your ambitions with horticulture and obviously the drag queen gardener, but have you got any ambitions to maybe go on drag race or get involved in some drag shows? Or how do you feel about that side of it?
Yeah, absolutely. I originally started to go into drag so I could like be performing, you know, in the clubs and doing lip syncing and stuff. In terms of like RuPaul's Drag Race, I would apply for that. But in like a couple of years' time, like I've only
go as a gardener. That would be unusual.
Oh, absolutely. Well, do you know what? I was thinking about this. Do you know those kind of gardening shows where it's? Do you remember like the allotment challenge?
Yeah.
And I'd love to like be the presenter on something like that. I think I'm nowhere near of an expert to be a judge, but I would love to be there like, hello and welcome to gardening.
Yeah, it'd be such a lovely merging worlds. Yeah, I think it would work really well.
Good for your job, Monty.
So tell us a little bit about your allotment then. What have you got growing on it? What are you doing down there?
Well, this allotment that I've got, we recently moved, so I've only been having this for about 6 months. So we're still working with everything. It's a different type of soil from what I was using before. But I'm kind of growing a bit of everything, really, from brassicas to tomatoes to lots of sunflowers. Oh my God, the gladioli. Oh wow, they're going really well.
Yeah, I love them. They're like.
We love to see a gladioli.
Just put some orange ones, which are really wild.
Sweet peas, cosmos, potatoes, spring onions, leeks, carrots, everything.
Everything you can squeeze in, basically.
Everything I can squeeze in. And I'm kind of like trying out new things each year. And I'm kind of there like, I've realised that the leeks aren't doing well this year. So I'm there like, oh, okay, how can I improve that for next year? And I think that's the point of gardening, you know. It's a lifetime of knowledge. And it's always similar to drag in some aspects. Like, there's always something new to learn. There's always new ways and ways of evolving as a gardener. And also, what I've kind of started to parallel is that like both are kind of art forms as well, in the sense of, you know, with drag, you've got like RuPaul's Drag Race, and it's very much an art form of drag. But then like gardening can also be an art form. I mean, the Chelsea flower show.
Yeah. I think it really is. It's a creative hobby, isn't it? You know, I'm just at Michael's at the moment, but looking out into the garden, that is a work of art.
Yeah,
like all the colours, all the
and
textures.
I do approach it as art as well.
Yeah, it's
landscape art.
Yeah,
both
totally.
Practical and creative.
Oh wow! Oh, it's so cool to have you on the gossip. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for having me.
Well, I know you dressed up for us, right? Today, have you got any other?
Yes, I did.
But you gotta watch Countdown afterwards. Some daytime stuff.
Just sat there watching me loose women.
To the allotment and have a few more shoots.
Oh, absolutely. We're trying to think what we can do about this. But yeah, well, I might go take a few photos. With a pumpkin, maybe.
I really feel like I don't want you to waste the effort that you put into being Daisy today, because you genuinely look amazeballs.
Yeah,
and so I feel like you need to do something after this podcast.
Yeah.
Like,
Oh,
go and make
absolutely.
a splash down the allotment. Like, literally own it down
Or
that
maybe
block.
just go to the garden centre and, like, you know, peruse the houseplants or something.
Oh my God! Don't tempt me, because I will do that. I will do that.
To be honest, for some reason, I thought you worked in a garden centre. I don't know why I thought that.
I think I'm always there. That's why.
Oh, right.
I've spent too much credit on my credit card at the garden centre.
I have seen a shot of you in the garden centre as Daisy. I'm sure I have. Yeah?
Yeah. That was the one that people kind of was there like, what is going on?
Oh, no. Oh, thank you, man. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, it's been awesome to chat with you. Thanks for spending the time with us.
Definitely.
And I mean, I can't wait to see you walking around at Hampton Court Press Day. That will be awesome. I'm going to say that I would come along and high-five you, but I probably won't be able to reach your hand.
Yeah, oh, bless you. You little shrimp.
Oh, bless you.
What day is it? Why am I not going?
Why are you not going? Why is
I just haven't
Michael
got
not
myself-
Why
going?
aren't you going to Hampton?
I hadn't got myself organised, but I don't know. Can I get in now, or is it like
Probably.
tightly what's it? I
Oh,
know.
I'm sure you can pull a few.
Look, he just knows that he only has to send an email to someone and he gets
Exactly. Oh,
Power.
they're like, it would take one message and he's there like, he's coming.
Yeah, exactly.
No.
And in the office, they're all like, Mr. Blanke's coming. Oh, yeah, Mr. Blanke's
Oh,
coming.
shut up.
Anyway, it's been a total pleasure chatting with you. We absolutely love what you're doing. We love that you're bringing some fun and excitement to gardening. It's so needed. So we 100% support that. And anyone who's listening, where can they find you online?
Well, they can find me. My Instagram handle is @dragqueen_gardener.
Perfect. So go and follow Tom and just enjoy all of the wonderful posts and Tom's journey and Daisy's journey, of course, in gardening. So thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
Enjoy the
Thank
rest
you.
of your day.
Now we can get our burgers out the oven. That's cool. Thank you. See you later, man.
Thank you.
The music for the Plant-Based podcast is part of the song Grow by Mikey James, and our editor is Gareth Patch of Semi Echo.